Because you're making
engineering, all that's natural science.
Okay, natural physical science is the only thing relevant to this conversation because you're making physical claims. We have an agreed upon parameters. We have a verification method. It's called the scientific method in natural physical science. And I've explained objectively what it is. And you've argued about the interpretation, saying that you can never, ever prove a cause. And I'm sure you're under the philosophy that you can never prove anything. Science doesn't prove things. And that's just that's a scapegoat,
Correct.
right? It's a scapegoat.
What?
So so then by deduction, there is no scientific proof of the globe model.
Please?
There's no scientific proof of anything. We could all just be in a brain.
Wait, can you just answer directly though? So that would mean by deduction, there's no scientific proof of the globe Earth
there's no
model.
scientific proof of anything. Science doesn't prove anything.
Okay, yeah, we get it. That's the talking point nowadays because y'all don't have any proof. But
wait, why do you think that's a scapegoat? Like, could we not be in a brain in the vat? Is that physically, like,
Can we get something relevant to the
impossible?
topic, please?
It's,
Wait, can we
it's
not
very
be
relevant
what?
to the topic. This is brain in a vat. Like, we're in the matrix. Like, so everything we're seeing is just a delusion of some kind. Like, that's possible, right?
So, yeah, science never proves anything. That's a fact.
Which is really essential when it comes to the moon.
The
No,
word
I understand the
theory
word
does
theory
not
very
mean
well.
hypothetical.
So I don't want to get clips of my old
Theories
videos.
can
Can we
be
actually get
proven,
something related
just
to
like
the
germs
topic,
can be
James?
proven.
But
because
not
they're-
all
Hold on 1
theories.
second,
can
Al.
be
Just
Fair.
hear the rest from Tom.
Theoretically,
So the only point you're making
do me a
here is
favor
that
and pause the
saying
video,
that
Kyle.
because it's
I don't want to hear clips from my old videos.
Hold on
I want
a second.
something relevant to the topic.
I know,
if possible.
but to be fair, if he is theoretically burning up his own time by doing things that are irrelevant, it's not for me,
It's
the
my
moderator,
time, isn't it?
to stop him from setting himself on fire. Like, theoretically, if he is currently setting himself on fire, like, I don't want to take your side, Tom, by stopping him from stepping in it.
No, I
So
want him
I
to. I don't want to have
understand
to
that.
address a whole bunch of things that
I
aren't
do have
related to
to.
the
I
day.
have to give him Tom. I have to give him the rest of it. For
No,
his
because this is
opening,
just straw
and
manning
then-
my position. I don't want to have to list to address
Tom,
other
I hate
things
to
I've
do
said
this,
out of
but-
context.
Tom, I have to give it to him, even if you want to point out later how he just lit himself on fire by wasting his
This
opening.
is a live debate. I don't want to address this stuff.
All right, go ahead, Kyle.
Okay.
a theory, it is therefore unproven, is wrong. Many theories are proven, so you're confused about the word theory. It doesn't mean unproven.
And many many theories can't be proven. So that doesn't mean all theories are provable. Do you see what I'm saying? There's many theories that can't be
I
proven.
didn't say all. Here.
So I'm saying, but you're trying to err on the side that I'm saying all theories are provable. I'm saying that it's 50-50. Yeah, I'm saying because it's a theory, it's not provable. You know what I mean?
That
doesn't mean some theories. That doesn't mean some theories aren't accurate. I'm saying that doesn't mean that all theories are inaccurate.
No, the part I'm objecting to is you define the word theory to mean uncertain. That's not what the word theory means.
All right, here's a peer-reviewed journal article written by a teacher of the teachers in the Journal of College Science Teaching. And it says, a gentle reminder that a hypothesis is never proven correct, nor is a theory ever proven to be true. In other words, it is saying science never proves anything. And it goes so far as to say words like prove, correct, and true should be removed from our vocabulary completely and immediately. And it isn't just an isolated statement, but Forbes magazine over there calls scientific proof a myth. And Scientific American says, if you say science is right, you're wrong. It is very much a mainstream belief these days. So, if you choose to agree with mainstream doctrine, you are going to have to admit that there is no scientific proof that we landed on the moon whatsoever. Yeah, you can claim that you have evidence for the moon landing, but you have to acknowledge that it is non-convicting evidence. In all, you're going to have to acknowledge that your belief in the moon landing is nothing more than faith, as in a confidence or trust in NASA and those who partner with them, and that it is a belief that is not based on proof. Yeah, you could say that you have evidence, but that kind of evidence is not the same thing as proof, which is why I referred to it as non-convicting evidence. You could say that this picture is evidence that the moon landing might have happened, but you have to acknowledge that it, along with the other moon footage, might have been staged using practical effects. So long as you claim science never proves anything, all of your arguments will boil down to, we should trust NASA because of X, Y, and Z. And if I wanted to play that game, I could represent the opposing view and say, we should not trust NASA because of X, Y, and Z. For example, I could point to Cindy Holland, who is a former NASA employee who testifies that we did not go to the moon. I could also point to Mike Helmick, who is another former NASA employee who says the same thing. I could also point to Gus Grissom, who I know Alex Stein mentioned to you before. Gus Grissom was the Apollo 1 astronaut who famously hung the lemon on the command module, after which he was killed by being locked inside and burned alive.
Kyle,
After deep investigation on the matter, Grissom survived.
Okay.
Do you remember at the beginning when I asked if you, instead of it being a recording of you doing your opening, do your opening live?
Okay. I can.
What you could
address all
do
these
is if you muted your computer, like on the audio, the YouTube video there, and then spoke through, as we want our guests to be doing their opening speeches live, just like the open dialogue.
Okay. So essentially what I'm saying here is when it comes to evidence that the moon landing did not happen, I could point to Gus Grissom, I can point to Cindy Holland and the other NASA whistleblowers. And then I can also point to, Kathy O'Brien, who was a MK Ultra survivor. And Kathy O'Brien said that the MK Ultra experiments both took place at the NASA headquarters and they were conducted by NASA themselves. So that was really convicting evidence for me, but I'm not here to just, say, okay, well, you've got all this evidence that says that the moon landing didn't happen, and I've got all this evidence saying that the moon landing didn't happen. I'd rather focus on proof, scientific proof. And the question here with TJump is whether or not he believes scientific proof actually exists or not. And if he does have scientific proof, I would love to see what kind of scientific proof he has that the moon landing actually happened. Now, when it comes to scientific proof, I would like to point out the vacuum chamber. One of my favorite instances is what happens to a balloon in a vacuum chamber. That balloon expands, and in this instance, it's filling up the entire thing. But when we put it into a tin can, like a soda can, that soda can is going to expand as well until it explodes, as you can see there. So when it comes to soda cans and vacuums, I have to point out the lunar lander and what that's made out of. Okay, and just how thick the lunar lander was, which is comparable to a soda can. The lunar lander has got a very thin wall. Yeah. And so that lunar lander is going to pop up like this, right? It should explode in the vacuum of space under that kind of pressure. And we also have the astronaut suits themselves, which would expand until they explode. Why are the astronaut suits themselves so thick when the lunar lander has such a thin skin? So there's a huge difference right there. So here we have them moving their hands up and down, right? And so when you put like a vacuum, just put like 7 pounds of pressure sorry, it's not a vacuum, but if you put 7 pounds of pressure just in a basketball, that thing is pretty firm, right? And so this is like quite a bit more than 7 pounds of pressure on a astronaut suit. You shouldn't even be able to put your arms down in that. So here I have the instance of the astronaut in the vacuum chamber. Am I okay to let this guy speak for himself here?
Sure.
Okay.
His experience being one.
As I stumbled backwards, I could feel the saliva on my tongue starting to bubble just before I went unconscious. And that's kind of the last thing I remember.
Essentially, he had no pressure on the outside of his body, and that's a very unusual case to get, and there's very little in the medical literature as to what happens when you have that. There's a lot of conjecture, that your fluids will boil.
Within 25 seconds, a co-worker sitting in a partially pressurized antechamber and wearing an oxygen mask was able to dash in.
Just the speed at which they were able to get some.
Okay. So, yeah, just the speed at which they were able to get someone in there was really fast. Like, yeah, really, really fast. And that tells you that it wasn't even that strong of a vacuum yet.
Pressurized it in just over a minute.
That's much.
Well, I've gone and talked to actual people who professionally work with vacuum chambers, and it takes them hours, like 12 hours, to get a vacuum chamber all the way up to pressure, and then to decompress it. Yeah, it takes quite a while, and
much faster than you would ever come down in an airplane. It would really hurt your ears if you did that.
Not
so. You also have to worry about things like the bends when you do scuba diving. That's a decompression sickness that definitely can kill people. And so when his suit suddenly loses pressure because it popped under the kind of pressure, yeah, when they jump in there, if it goes really fast, yeah, that person could die from oxidization of the blood.
Not to mention you have to,
okay, so.
Which can.
Miraculously, LeBlanc had already regained consciousness.
When I stood up in the chamber, I felt fine. My ears ached a little bit from the course of rapid repressurization, and that's basically the only effect I had.
You know, this is one of the few instances where anybody was ever exposed to that low of a pressure and lived to tell about it with no obvious damage.
Which was only possible because it wasn't as extreme as lunar conditions.
So, yeah, it wasn't as extreme as lunar conditions. And now I'm just kind of pointing out the different layers of that astronaut suit. And again,
coming up on 12 minutes, just so you know. So I'd want to
shoot.
Some parts are reported.
Okay, sorry. There's interruptions there that kind of took my time away, but okay, I'm all good. The astronaut suit had a whole bunch of layers to it, and the lunar lander itself did not. It was really, really thin, as thin as a few sheets of aluminum foil. That's my point.
You got it. Thank you very much for that opening statement, Kyle. And we're going to kick it over to TJump for his opening as well. But before we do, I want to say, folks, if it's your first time here at Modern Day Debate, want to let you know we are a neutral platform hosting debates on science, religion, and politics. I'm your host, James. We hope you feel welcome. No matter what walk of life you're from, whether you think the moon landing is the real deal or a hoax, we're glad that you're here. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button, as we have many more juicy debates coming up. For example, at the bottom right of your screen, we're absolutely thrilled about this one. Daniel Hakikachu and Mike Jones from Inspiring Philosophy have agreed to debate. You don't want to miss it. It's going to be a great one. So, like I said, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button for juicy debates like that one at the bottom right of your screen. With that, thanks very much, Tom. The floor is all yours.
Let's see. What the? All right. I don't know how to share screen on this. Share screen. Is that it? Nope.
In the meantime, I want to remind you folks, a couple of quick housekeeping things. Our guests are both linked in the description box, as well as, this is a big one, folks, we're excited about it. At the bottom right of your screen, we showed you that upcoming debate between Daniel and Mike Jones at Inspiring Philosophy, but also want to let you know, got it all loaded up?
Ready?
You got it.
50 years ago, one voice reached across the depths of space to leave its mark on history.
We can't hear the video.
All right. Exit. Stop share. Share screen. Share sound. All right, try it now.
That's one small step for man.
Can you hear it now?
Yep.
Okay.
One giant leap for man.
Earth, Neil Armstrong became the first human to set foot on the lunar surface. The world discovered this monochrome landscape through the footsteps left by Armstrong and Aldrin. Beyond the technical and political success represented by Apollo 11's mission, it was an opportunity for the astronauts to gather samples and install devices for scientific measurements. In particular, they deployed a reflective panel no larger than a suitcase. 50 years later, it's among the instruments that continue to supply the scientific community with data. Return to Earth, and more precisely to the south of France. This plateau is home to the Calerne Observatory. Among the instruments directed towards space, one telescope in particular is studying the lunar surface, and has been for nearly half a century. With a 1.5-meter diameter mirror, this telescope is equipped with a laser which enables it to measure the distance between the Earth and the Moon with great precision. Every day, scientists from the observatory calculate the trajectories needed to find the reflectors left on the surface by the various Apollo missions. Over the years, the study has benefited greatly from technological advancements.
50 years ago, measurements of this distance taken by laser were accurate to within about a meter. Thanks to the evolution of technology that followed, our measurements today are precise to within a few millimeters, with an exactitude on the order of a centimeter. This exactitude is a little less than we'd like, due to misreadings caused by atmospheric interference. We have a lot of studies currently centered on the impact of the atmosphere on our lasers, in order to compensate for these perturbations.
On this June evening, moonrise is predicted at around 11 p.m. After calibrating the various instruments that ensure the stability of this extremely powerful laser, the operating team will need to reorient it towards the moon to begin collecting data. This laser, visible to the naked eye at night, produces 10 pulses per second. Out of the thousands of photons bombarding the moon, few will return to Earth and be captured by the telescope. A round-trip journey of roughly 800,000 kilometers that takes 2.4 seconds to complete. The observer on Earth must continually and manually correct the telescope's aim. In this way, they'll obtain an echo, a sign that the laser has succeeded in striking one of the reflectors left on the lunar surface.
We use 5 reflectors on the surface of the moon, 3 of which were deployed by the Americans on Apollo missions, the first being Apollo 11. It's a panel which is 50 centimeters squared and which was equipped with 100 corner cube reflectors. Corner cube reflectors are devices which, unlike regular mirrors, can reflect light back in the direction it came from. When one looks at this kind of object, one will see the center of their own eye reflected back, which is exactly the kind of passive system used on the moon. There are 3 American reflective panels from Apollo 11, 14, and 15, as well as 2 Russian rovers, Lunokhod 1 and 2, which were also equipped with this type of system.
Measurements collected by this observatory, in conjunction with an international network of observation stations, have improved the database which feeds the research of scientists around the world. Nicolas.
All right, that's all I really need right there. So that proves for a fact anybody can go to rent one of those observatories. There's particularly one I found. It's the Mount Williams Observatory. You can rent it for a night. You can use the laser. You can bounce it off of these 5 reflectors, and you can find for a fact that there are human devices on the moon that can be provably there that anybody can go find. That debunks literally everything he said in 5 seconds. Done.
You got it. With that, want to say thank you very much to our guests for those openings. We're going to jump into the open conversation, but first, want to let you know, as you can see at the bottom right of your screen, we are currently working toward meeting 1,000 followers on TikTok. The reason is that unlocks us being able to live stream these debates just like this one on TikTok. So if you haven't yet, I just threw that link to our TikTok in the live chat, and Surgeon General has also put it. Thanks very much. Appreciate that in the live chat, Surgeon General. That TikTok link for Modern Day Debate is also in our description box. If you want to follow us there, that helps us expand our neutral platform, as we want to give everybody their fair shot to make their case on a level playing field here at Modern Day Debate. So thank you very much, gentlemen. The floor is all yours for that open dialogue.
Okay, so we've got common ground that science can prove things and that Jacqueline McLaughlin was wrong.
No,
So
science
I'm
cannot
really happy
prove
about that.
things. Science.
You just said
provides
that.
evidence.
You just said that was proof, though.
Sure. It's proof you're wrong. Science doesn't prove
Okay,
things.
so
I can prove you're
okay.
wrong.
Okay, so you can prove I'm wrong, but that's not a scientific claim.
No, that's just you're an idiot. That's all that is. So yes.
That's not okay. Now that's
that's not science proving things. That's me proving you're an idiot. That's all that is. That's all
okay.
that is.
Yeah, that's all you've got. It's just vowels. Okay.
Well, no, I proved you wrong. I literally provided a scientific experiment anybody can do. You can go rent an observatory to prove that there are reflectors on the moon, which debunks everything you said. And then I called you an idiot. So an ad hominem is when you just say you're an idiot, therefore you're wrong. It's not the same thing.
That's still, yeah.
No,
it's still
no, it's not. No, it's not. Do you have any evidence? Do you want to do?
Okay.
No, it's not. Do you want to respond to the thing that just proved all your worldview wrong?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
it's really simple. Okay, like they were able to bounce lasers off the moon before they ever claimed to do that.
No,
how does
they
that
couldn't.
compare? You claim that never happened.
What do you? No, they could not bounce lasers off of 5 reflectors on the moon in particular directions before
They could
they put them
bounce
there.
lasers off the moon before they ever claimed to have reflectors on the moon.
No, they could not bounce lasers off of reflectors that reflect back where you pointed from,
Okay,
where you
you
pointed
have
from.
okay, you haven't really provided anything other than NASA says so.
No, this is something
there
you
are
can do.
reflectors on
You
the
can go rent this and prove it yourself, and people have done this. So that's like corroboration from multiple sources that people do in college all the time. So this is, you've been debunked, not just NASA says so. This is everybody that says so because you've been debunked. And the point here is that those reflectors, they reflect light back from where they are sent from, which means you can confirm this from multiple different observatories. Now, if you just flash a laser at the moon, it won't reflect back directly at you. It's going to reflect in different
exactly
directions.
what happened back before.
Stop talking. Stop talking and listen to
happened.
my words so you know why you're wrong. So when you reflect a laser off of the moon, for it to go directly back towards the sensor, you need a device that sends the photons directly back to the sensor. It doesn't just naturally do that. To do that, you need a device like the one shown in the video, which is a man-made device, which there's 5 of them, and there's only 5 locations on the moon where this happens magically for some magical spooky reason. Guess what? That proves we've been to the moon. Debunked.
No. Yeah.
Yes, debunked.
Okay.
Yep, debunked.
No. Yeah, just because you say so doesn't make it so.
Oh, no, this is proven. You can, again, I've gave you the resources to check this
you're just
yourself.
saying so. You're just saying so.
Yes, that you can rent an observatory and do the experiment yourself. Yeah, anybody can do this.
Okay, when you go to the observatory, okay, do you see any laser actually coming back, like with your eyes? Do you see it coming back, or does an observatory?
You don't need to see things with your eyes.
What? You
can see it with the computer. You can bring your own computer.
Really? A computer can do it, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
You can bring your own computer that's you make yourself and say, does it read back sensory data of lasers coming back to the sensor? Yes, you're debunked.
Okay, so it's kind of like one of those little pop-up toys. If I push a button, all of a sudden I've got Big Bird popping up out of the toy, and because that Big Bird's popping up, oh look,
well, if you're so dumb and don't know how to make computers, that's the best you can do, I guess. But if you learn how to do computers,
they just
and
give you
sensors,
whatever information they want to.
No, you can bring your own equipment, bro. Use your own computer, bro.
Yeah,
they don't give you any equipment. They don't just make things like hack your computer to give you data, bro.
Where does the data come from? They give it to you.
No, they have a sensor. You can rent the sensor and you can hook it up to your computer to give it data. They don't control the sensor.
Sounds like you're making stuff up right now. Like, have you ever done this before?
Yes, I have. You can do this for college.
You've got video
all the
footage of you
time.
doing
You've
this?
been debunked, bro.
I don't think so.
Yep, you can too.
Yeah.
I Mount Wilson Observatory. You can rent the laser, you can rent the device, and you can show the results. Anybody can. You're
Because
debunked,
because the device just gives you numbers and says, "Hey, look at this." So I can draw a stick
your
figure of a
ignorance
man.
of not knowing how devices work isn't evidence that it doesn't work.
Oh, that's another red card there, buddy.
No, that's just a fact. If you are too ignorant to know how devices work,
that's
that
another red
mean
card there,
not,
buddy. Hey,
they don't work.
Moderator, do we have any kind of penalties for this stuff?
That's not an insult. That's just the truth. If you don't know, if you're ignorant of how a device works, that is not evidence the device does not work. That's just a fact. Like, what about that sentence did not make sense to you? If you are ignorant of how a device works, That does not show the device does not work. Which part of that are you objecting to?
If you don't know how a device works, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. Yeah, I get that.
Correct. There you go. That wasn't hard. We got you
Okay.
there. Applause.
Okay. So
Well, that was your argument. So you debunked your own argument there. Thank you.
what was my argument?
The fact that you don't know how a device works because they're being controlled by the NASA
Oh.
conspiracy, therefore it must be a lie.
That's called a straw man, because I never made that argument.
That was literally your argument. You're saying they're giving you the data. You're saying the NASA shields are controlling the device and giving you the data, even though it's your computer. Yeah, no, you don't know how the device works.
Okay. The device gives you data, right? Do you agree on that?
Yes, the device
Okay,
receives
great.
data and puts it on a screen for you, so you can
And
read
gives
the
it to
data.
your computer. And so if it says, okay, well, you do these things just right, and then this is going to happen. So it's one of those pop-up toys.
Yeah, that's how science works. You do an experiment, you have a result, and then it gives you a consistent result. That's science. Science is good. Yes.
Okay. So how does any of that destroy my argument about the vacuum blowing a hole in the lunar lander? Or
It wouldn't.
an
You just don't
astronaut suit?
understand how space works. Like the pressure in the lunar lander is less than the pressure in your tire. Like, does the tire explode? No, your car tire is doing just fine with much greater pressure than that of the lunar lander. Problem solved.
All right, that right there proves to me, if it's really got that little of pressure inside the lunar lander, that is proof that it's impossible. It didn't happen. You put like that much pressure in a balloon, and the balloon expands.
Yes, because a
expands in the vacuum.
balloon is made of rubber.
Yeah, and guess what? When you put a tin can in a vacuum chamber, like a soda can, okay, that's going to expand too.
Not nearly
though
as
it's
much. No,
metal is going to expand.
very
And
little.
I've got video footage of
Very
that.
little.
It's enough to blow a hole in the thing. Yeah.
No, you can design it so it can expand and not blow a hole in it. That's not hard. It's not hard at all. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. It's gibberish.
That's because
Like,
you didn't
it's
watch
not.
my
There's no
opening
law of
statement
physics
or
that
listen to my-
aluminum
you kind of
with
wandered
pressure
off.
on it will explode. There's no law of physics that says that. You can make composites that don't explode. They can hold stronger weights. They don't really need to, because it's not really that much pressure. I mean, obviously, like a pop can is not the same kind of aluminum as used in the space station. So obviously, they're not going to have the same tensile strength. Like, do you not know any of those words?
Okay, so yeah, you're just saying, oh well, it's strong enough. We just kind of a wizard did it. A wizard did it.
No, I'm saying that there are multiple kinds of metal. Not all metal is a pop can. So putting pressure on a pop can and seeing a pop can explode is not evidence that any metal in space would explode. That is a stupid
It's going to
argument.
expand, and that it's
Expansion
that's-
does not mean explode. Things can expand and
when
not
it when it
explode.
okay when it expands and can't contain, there's more outward pressure than there is the tensile strength, as you described it, then it's going to explode.
Right, which is why we have more tensile strength in the space station than the amount of pressure inside of it, so it doesn't explode. Problem solved. Ta-da! Science
More
magic. Whoa!
So, why did the astronaut suits have to be so thick, and yet the walls of the lunar lander, why were they allowed to be so thin?
For lots of reasons. What is that? Why is this relevant?
Because that right there is kind of a contradictory statement.
No, the spacesuits aren't made of metal, bro. They're made of cloth, bro.
Cloth
is not as strong as metal, and so if you want to have the same tensile strength of a piece of cloth as you do a piece of metal, you're probably going to need more cloth. Like, what? How is this hard? This is not hard.
Okay, it should be expanding, right? It's got a lot more flexibility. Should be a lot more like that balloon.
So we use again. So I think I covered this, the part where you have objects with tensile strength, and you put enough tensile strength so it doesn't explode. That's the whole solution to the problem here. It's not
and
like
then you get the problem with being able to move your arms up and down.
no,
right?
that's not a problem.
Your arms are going to get really stiff.
No,
it's like a
No,
basketball.
It's not a problem.
You put like 5 pounds of pressure in a basketball, and you lose flexibility of the basketball.
That's because a basketball has no joints. If you have a joint that can swivel, then you don't have that problem.
You can like move your hands and moving.
Yes.
Okay, like your elbows are able to move
Yes,
their elbows to
yes.
swing a hammer, right?
Yes.
And so
None of that is
Yeah.
a problem.
because you said so.
No, because it's not a basketball. A basketball is a single piece of object that doesn't have any joints. If you put a joint on a basketball, like suppose you cut a basketball in half, you like put like little rollers on it, and then glued it back together and then remolded it up, you could twist it. It wouldn't be hard. You just twist it. Problem solved. So if you have twisty points, you can have like twisty points on the sides and then twist those like the little arms, then twisty points on the fingers, and those can twist too. It's not hard.
Yep, they've got twisty points on every joint on the astronaut suit, right? And that's how they did it, is kind of Mr. Roboto style on swinging that hammer.
Yes, that's how Kevlar works. It's flexible. Flexible things can flex. Yes.
Yeah, if it's flexible though, then you've got the flexible basketball.
Sure, you can have a flexible basketball too. Like those are easy. Just don't make them out of solid leather. Problem solved. Like there are flexible basketballs. They're very squishy. Yes, you can squish them.
Yeah, Kevlar is a lot less flexible than leather is.
No.
Yeah.
No. Like your ignorance of how these materials work is not actually evidence here. So yes, Kevlar is actually extremely flexible. That's why it's so good against bullets. Kevlar, the way it works is that it flexes to catch the bullet. It is meant to be extremely flexible. That's how it stops bullets. Your ignorance of the topic is not evidence. Yes, you can bend
I've had the Kevlar
under pressure
things, but you don't really bend them to like in half or anything like that.
Yes, you can bend Kevlar exactly like that. Have you ever held Kevlar? It's very flexible.
I've had bulletproof vests before. I was in the Guard for 8 years.
Good for you. Then you should know it's flexible.
It's not that flexible. You
All
have
right.
to like
Before we go
on this,
I want to say we do have a poll, as we do appreciate you folks having responded to that poll in the live chat. We did want to bring up a couple of topics, as these are topics we asked the audience. What do you most want to hear discussed next? One is, are the moon landing photos forgeries or fakes?
No.
The vacuum just proves that they are fake. And you've got the testimonials that these things happen. That's all evidence, right? Do you agree that a testimony is evidence?
Sure. Like the testimony of the thousands of people who worked on these and the testimony of the dozens of astronauts who said they were there. So if you want to count testimony, I win because I have more of it.
Oh, so that's called the appeal.
No. If you want to count testimony,
that's ad populum.
I have more testimony. That's just your own standard.
It's ad populum.
No.
Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just defining the definition.
If you want to
evidence.
define testimony as evidence, I have more astronauts who give testimony.
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not disagreeing with that. There's no argument there. Okay. But yeah, that doesn't make it true. Okay.
Then
saying I have more
we're not
testimony,
counting testimony as evidence.
It is evidence.
Well, then I have all the
doesn't mean
evidence.
anything. That's why I didn't really like lead with that.
You have two options here. Either we accept testimony as evidence, in which case I have a whole bunch of experts who have testimony, and you have like a couple deluded people, and I win. Or we don't accept testimony as evidence, and I have actual things that we can verify today, like lasers on the moon, and I win. So either way, I win. You can pick whichever one.
Okay, there's a difference between convicting evidence and non-convicting evidence. Do you agree?
Sufficient evidence and bullcrap? Yes, I agree.
Okay, so there is convicting evidence and non-convicting evidence. And so
sufficient evidence of bullcrap. Yes. I have the sufficient evidence.
All right. If I were to like put my hand on someone's forehead and it's warm, right? And I could say, oh, okay, their head is warm. Therefore, that's evidence that they might have a fever, but it's not convicting evidence because my hand just could be cold, right? So that's the difference between convicting and non-convicting.
The word sufficient means?
Sufficient is, it's enough to convict. Right.
Congratulations. You're just repeating the same point we've already agreed upon. Yes, there is a sufficient evidence and there is bullcrap, insufficient evidence. Yes, we agree these are two things. I have the sufficient evidence. You
sufficient because you have more of it, right?
If you want to count personal testimony as evidence towards some kind of sufficient basis, then yes, I have more of that.
You have more of it. Yeah. Saying it's
of the actual photos though. Kyle, I think people would love to hear, are the photos forgeries? More detail on that, because I think we skipped over to like different kind of indirect arguments for them being forgeries in terms of addressing the photos more specifically.
All right. Well, there are a lot of people like to point out like the high level of detail in the photos. And I just look at the high level of details and say, hey, that can't happen in a vacuum. The vacuum chamber would affect the gelatin inside the layers of the film. And it's gonna. Have you not looked at what the film is made out of? You can actually still buy the film today. There's gelatin in the film, and that gelatin is going to get affected by the vacuum. Not to mention you have to worry about cold welding, which is going to affect every part of the camera. And every time those astronauts are falling down directly on that camera and smashing that camera lens right into the ground, that right there is going to damage the kind of quality you can make. And so you can point at all these great high, really good detailed photos, but those are evidence that the moon landing did not happen, because you can't take that good of photos under those kind of conditions. Okay, you've got
yes, you
to worry
can.
about the
Like
heat.
none of that's hard. Like there are many ways to do that. In fact, the gelatin was specifically designed to be in space. So saying that space would affect it just means you're again ignorant of how it works. So yes, it's fine. It works fine in space. No problem. Totally fine.
Okay, you can actually buy it today.
I'm not done. I'm not done speaking yet. Shh. Secondly, the way space works is that there's less interference. And so because there's less interference between the photons of light being bounced off the object and the camera lens, would actually be more detailed than a photo in the atmosphere. What gibberish are you talking about? Of course there's high detailed photos of space.
Okay.
This doesn't mean that they're fake because you don't understand how the mechanics works. Again, this is you don't understand how the machine works, therefore it's fake. Those are just, again, your argument from ignorance.
Okay. You don't understand
Ignorance.
is
Your
an
ignorance.
ad hominem. That's an ad hominem.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact. It's not an ad hominem. It's a fact.
Because you say so. Because you say so.
Yes, because you think the gelatin
that's
would be affected by space. It's not. That's not
ad
how
hominem.
it works. So obviously you must necessarily be ignorant of how it works. Therefore you're ignorant of how it works. Basic.
That's assuming
premise
things.
conclusion.
Yeah, you don't know what I know, and so that's kind of how it goes.
Well, I know what you just said.
You can actually buy
wrong.
ectochrome. You can actually buy the ectochrome film today, and you can actually put that ectochrome film into a vacuum chamber and see that it actually gets damaged by the vacuum chamber. It's testable. You can do it yourself, right?
Sure, and it'll
You
work.
can do it yourself.
And
You
it'll
can do
work.
it yourself. Yeah,
Yes.
it's provable.
Yes,
It's
and
provable.
it works, and we do it today, and it works. It still works.
you
The
can-
pictures still work.
Yeah, and you can't take high quality photos.
Yes, you can.
Put it in a vacuum chamber. No, you can't. You can
Yes,
do it
you
yourself.
can. They literally
can
do
it
this
yourself.
all the time.
It
We
gets
have vacuum
damaged.
chambers. We do this.
It gets damaged.
No, no,
It
it
affects-
doesn't.
it
I've
affects
never
the
seen
quality.
a photo of a
Yeah.
vacuum chamber be damaged because of the vacuum, because literally
Yeah,
they
That's
account
because
for
you
that.
haven't looked into this yet. Yeah.
No.
Apollo
I've looked into
detectives
this
do
a
it.
lot. They take lots of photos in vacuum chambers. That's one of the things they're commonly used for. They are not degraded by the vacuum.
They are.
They are not.
It's provable. I can show you pictures. So
Photos from vacuum chamber. Right, let's see here.
With
We got photos from a
ectochrome?
vacuum chamber. Here, this one's from a nuclear reactor. This one's from the Large Hadron Collider. I'm not seeing any degradation. These are very clear photos.
yeah, I don't think those are taken with ectochrome film though.
Okay.
Right? If you take a digital camera and stick it in a vacuum chamber, yeah, it's gonna be a little different than putting ectochrome film. into a
Ectochrome
vacuum
films
chamber.
in a vacuum. University of Pittsburgh. Oh, shit, these are pretty clear photos. I don't know what gibberish you're talking about.
I don't think they're quite as clear as the visor photo.
They look perfectly clear. I
Okay.
see no degradation in the photo whatsoever.
Yeah, there's no degradation of the photo whatsoever. I can't
Yep.
see what you're talking about. So
Okay.
yeah, there's no, I guess we're just trusting you, right? It's all
Well,
faith.
you can do you can do the experiment
It's all
yourself. This
faith.
is one that's been commonly repeated again by many universities all the time. This is not a hard
Yeah.
thing to do.
With
Do
ectochrome
the
film.
machines of the camera that were built for the Apollo mission work in a vacuum? Yes. Yes, they do. Can you build them?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Have you ever
Can
heard of
you do
cold
this
welding
yourself?
before?
Yes.
Have
I
you ever
what?
heard of cold welding? Cold welding.
Cold welding. Yes, I have heard of cold welding. What about
Okay,
it?
so cold welding is going to affect the joints of
How?
that camera. No,
How?
I don't think it's going to affect.
No, I
it.
said how. How question mark. How?
Well, there's no oxygen in between the two, and so you
So?
got two layers were right next to each other, and they end
So?
up getting stuck together because of the cold welding.
What cold welding? It's space.
Cold welding affects plastics, and it also affects
Okay.
metals. and-
What cold welding? If I put two objects in space, they don't magically cold weld together because they're in space.
They don't cold weld together in their space. So you
Well,
have
see,
just
well, just to clarify,
metal
it
on
seems like
metal.
your argument is any object in space that's metal, that's next to another metal object, will cold weld together because they're in space. That seems to be
that
what
can
you're saying.
happen in space. Yeah, because there's no
It does not.
oxidation layer between the two, and because when there's no oxidation layer between the two, they end up sticking together. And that was a big, huge thing with one of the satellite claims that they have is, oh, they're trying to pull out this umbrella on this satellite, and all of a sudden the umbrella is getting stuck because of the cold welding. And so if it can happen to a satellite, then why couldn't it happen on the moon with the camera and like the shutter and so many other things? And you just look at the camera itself, and there's no insulation on that thing to protect it from the heat, and so you got all this radiation.
They're already joined together. What is your point here? So like, if you take two
There's
pieces of
moving
metal
parts. There's moving parts in the
that
camera.
are not the same material. So like, you understand cold welding only works if they're the same material, right? So if you use a different material, problem solved.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, but there's still joints that are in there of the same material.
The joints are already connected. Like if they're already connected, they can't reconnect. It's like, do you think like it's just, if you have a screw that's of a single material, it's all just going to turn into a blob in space? No, it has
cold
physical
welding doesn't mean
parts
melting.
that hold it together.
I never claimed that the screw would melt.
Okay, so an object that is connected by a joint that's been welded together already isn't going to cold fuse into a different shape because it's already connected, like a screw is already connected, right?
The screw is already connected, yeah.
Right. So it's not going to cold weld if they're already connected.
Yeah.
Already connected. There's nothing to...
if the screw is going into something of the same material, then it's going to cold weld to that material.
No, you're not understanding. So like a screw is going to maintain its shape in space, right?
Yeah, that's not an argument.
Right. So if you have two objects that are welded together before you go into space, and you bring them into space, and they're already welded together, they're not going to cold weld into a different shape. They're going to maintain their shape, aren't they?
Yeah, they're already together. So why would
like the shape of a camera, for example?
Like, okay, so there's moving parts within that camera, right?
Which are not the same material.
So
problem
each
solved.
of them, yeah, you'd have to have the visuals for that because
what? Cold welding only works when you have two metals of the same material. So if you have a different material, problem solved, right?
So all of the metal in the camera they used a different kind of metal with each piece in the camera. Is that your claim?
Sure, that would be really easy to do. Actually, you could just like offset, use aluminum, titanium, aluminum, titanium, aluminum, titanium. That'd be really easy to do. So
and you're claiming that they made this special custom camera.
Well, they did make a special custom camera specifically for space. Yes, duh.
And they tested that out and put that in the vacuum and said, okay,
yes,
we gotta make sure
that's literally what they did with all of their equipment. They built a specially customized thing. This is why it costs so much money. Tested it out in a vacuum chamber to make sure it worked, and then brought it to space. That's the order of scientific experiment.
They did it. They tested it out in a vacuum chamber. Do you have any evidence that shows that a report saying, okay, the vacuum chamber test for the camera was done on this day before Apollo 11, and this is it? Or are you just making stuff up?
Let's check. Vacuum chamber test. Neil Armstrong practices in vacuum chamber before Apollo 11. Yes, I do. I do have sources for this. Do you want one specifically for the camera?
You've got footage of Neil Armstrong in a vacuum chamber?
Maybe.
That would be interesting.
Do you want me to find that one too?
That sounds fun, because that's kind of right there with my argument, is that the astronaut spacesuits themselves don't work in a vacuum chamber. And so I'd be very interested.
This looks like footage from Neil Armstrong practicing in a vacuum chamber. Yes, I believe so.
On screen.
This is a space power facility in a vacuum chamber built NASA 1969. And yeah, I think that's it.
On screen. Let's see it.
How do I do this again? Share screen. I'll have to share.
That's a vacuum chamber?
Yes, this is a vacuum chamber.
Okay, looking for Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber.
Well, Neil Armstrong shows up over here. This is him putting on the suit. Here's he's putting on the suit. That's Neil Armstrong. That guy right there in the middle. This is the suit.
So we're kind of waiting for him in the vacuum chamber.
There's the vacuum chamber. See, that's the big door for the vacuum chamber.
Yeah, it's not going to work. He didn't have his helmet on that whole time?
Well, if the door's open, then it's not pressurized. You do know how a vacuum chamber works, right? You have to like close the door first.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
Well, there's the pressure.
I can't even see that.
There he is. He's in the vacuum chamber right there, and there's the little camera.
Where?
Right there. You see the TV screen? That's a picture of inside the vacuum chamber with Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber. They're going to
Is
show a
it?
close up. Yes. Yes, it is.
I
There it
can't
is.
see it.
There you
I'm
go.
sorry.
Neil Armstrong in the vacuum chamber.
That's showing him on the TV, and
That's not a TV. This is a camera looking down from above in the vacuum chamber. That's the vacuum chamber.
okay. That's from inside the vacuum chamber.
It might be, or it could just be like a screen above the vacuum chamber and a camera looking through it.
I'd like to see him like actually do some moving around a bit.
He is moving. What are you talking about? He's holding things.
Yeah. How do you even know that that vacuum chamber is pressurized?
Well, they showed the pressure.
Oh, because they had a meter that shows that you can't even see. Like we looked at the thing, but you couldn't see any numbers on it.
You can see the numbers on it. What are you talking about?
What numbers? All you see is white.
55, 54. Or maybe it's because it's going through Zoom. I can see the numbers. So 60 in the bottom right, 0 in the bottom left. It goes in increments of 5 around the edge.
I just see white.
Okay, that's probably just because of Zoom or something, but I can see the numbers. It's on
I'll have to check
35.
that out
It's
later.
35, whatever metric they're using. I think it's PSI.
PSI. And how does that compare to with the vacuum of space? Like which one is a greater PSI?
Greater PSI? Clearly, PSI is in space is like 0 or something.
Oh, so there's no pressure like comparable. So like it takes
Yes,
a lot of
this goes to 0. This goes to 0. So yes, we did do tests down to close to space. Yes.
Okay, so what you're showing me right here is not comparable to space. It's like
Yeah, this is it getting to the level where they get him into it. So it has to go down, starts at a high number, goes to a low number, and gets to space conditions or close to space.
Okay, so we're not seeing him in space conditions. We're just kind of watching.
No,
him
we
go
are
in
seeing
there.
him in space conditions. This is the beginning of the video where it's going down.
Okay, well, where do we see the space conditions?
When we saw him moving around. Again, you can replicate this. We can rent a vacuum chamber. You can use a
that you can walk in. That's
Sure,
Mark Sargent's big
for it.
game changer right there. He's like, if you want to prove it to me, I want to be in a vacuum chamber. That's
Yes,
Mark
you
Sargent's
can.
really
You
big-
can rent a vacuum chamber. Yes.
that you can walk into with 2 astronaut suits, and yeah, he's
The
like,
astronaut suits are going to be a little more expensive to rent, but they are rentable, I imagine.
that would be interesting. Yeah, that's Mark Sargent's #1 thing right there, saying, hey, if you can go in with a vacuum chamber with me, we experience this, and I don't die, then that's all it would take to convince him that the moon landing, was plausible.
Cool.
So
Industrial vacuum systems for sale and rent. Yes. Oh, that's a vacuum space suit for rent. I know that SpaceX has them. But yeah, you can rent pretty much all these things. It's easier just to do what I said because you can bounce lasers off the moon. It's cheaper too.
bounce lasers off the moon, and that you don't ever see coming back from the moon. And you still don't claim that.
Again,
it
you're
was
not
ever
understanding
possible
how
before
science
they had
works.
to-
You don't need to directly observe something for it to be a thing. Like indirect observation is a thing. Just novel
Indirect
predictions. That's
observation?
how they work. Yes.
So that's kind of trusting things. Would you agree?
No.
That's faith. You don't think that's
No.
faith-based?
No. No, indirect
think that-
observations is a novel testable prediction. It's the opposite of faith.
Okay, so if Mr. Sensible walks up to me and says my cat does not eat food, and that's
What?
like
It's not an indirect observation.
that's not an indirect observation.
No,
Okay, so
an indirect
an
observation is making a prediction of consequences of some object without seeing the object directly itself. So like if I prayed to a magic sky daddy for a gold brick and a gold brick appeared in front of me, that would be an indirect observation of God.
Okay. So indirect is watching a consequence but not seeing what caused the consequence.
It's making a prediction, a novel testable prediction about a consequence of some expected result if something is true, and if you get that result, it is a indirect observation of the hypothesis.
Do you consider that to be proof?
Yeah, there's no proof in science. It is evidence. It is extremely
You
strong
just told me
evidence.
that there was proof in science. No, you're
No,
kind of
there is
all
no
over the
proof in
place now.
science. There is proof.
There
There
is no proof in-
There is no proof in science.
Okay, so that's not a
That's not a scientific claim. No, it's not a scientific claim. Could be a philosophical
Okay.
claim. You can prove things in philosophy. That is
Okay.
legit.
All right. Well,
Science does
that's
not
still
prove things. Evidence is fallible. It gives you a percentage.
science. Yeah. And that's where Dr. McLaughlin said we should eliminate words like prove, correct, and true and completely and
No,
immediately.
Correct and true are fine. Proof is not fine. But it's not. This is not a
So you keep,
controversial
like,
point. Like this
you-
literally
you
does
keep
not do
using that.
anything to help your position. Whether you call it proof if we're 99.999% sure or not is irrelevant.
Okay. So you just by your own admittance, then we have no proof that we landed on the moon whatsoever.
We have sufficient evidence,
Evidence, but not proof.
convictable evidence.
Convicting evidence is the
Sure.
same thing as proof.
No, it's not.
How is it different?
Because convicting evidence is fallible. You can be wrong. You can convict people and be wrong. Like this is such a stupid flurf argument. Like proof is 100% certainty. The only things you can prove are math, logic, and the cogito. Those are the only things you can prove. Everything else has a degree of probability. So we could be in the matrix. We could literally all be in a big delusion right now. So we can only be 99.9% certain that this reality exists and we weren't created 5 minutes ago by leprechaun. Do we have proof that we were not created 5 minutes ago by leprechauns? No. We cannot prove that with 100% certainty. Do we have evidence? Yes, we have evidence. Do we have sufficient evidence? Yes, we have sufficient evidence. So the stupid flurf argument that we can't prove things in science is like saying, well, we can't prove we're not in the matrix. That's how dumb that argument is.
That's
Just
not
learn
my
what the
argument.
word
I
means.
directly
We have
disagree
equal
with
evidence
that
for the moon landing as we do that we were not created by leprechauns 5 minutes ago.
All right. So my statement is that science definitely can prove things. I can prove that my cat eats food. That's a big statement right there.
So if you
And
want
so
to use that
you're coming
definition
to a
of proof,
debate.
just to
Well,
clarify,
you're interrupting me. You're
I
interrupting
do.
me.
I don't want to grant
Let
your
me finish
definition.
talking. Let me finish talking.
Well, I want to
Let me
grant your
finish talking.
definition. So like if we're using
Let
that
me finish talking.
definition,
Whoa,
then
whoa,
yes.
whoa, whoa,
If we're
whoa,
using that
whoa,
definition
whoa,
of proof,
whoa,
if
whoa,
we're using
Victor.
that definition of proof, then yes, we can prove we landed on the moon. Yes.
Okay. So what definition of proof?
The one you used about whatever criteria you're using to establish that your cat eats food.
Okay. So you can't even quote my definition of proof, and you're saying
Well, you didn't
that
give a definition. You gave an example.
Oh, so you're just strawmanning me then.
No, you gave an example. So if you have an example of your cat, you can prove your cat eats food. Whatever criterion you use of proof for an observable empirical fact can be replicated for another observable empirical fact. So if I have a different observable empirical fact, that would also be proof by whatever definition you're using to say that this observable empirical fact X was also proof. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
No.
How does it not make sense? So if you say something observable and empirical is proof, and I say, okay, we can observe and empirically prove the moon landing, then by your definition, they're both proved.
Okay. So you're saying that science can prove things, but it can't prove things. And
No. I'm saying you have a dumb definition of proof because you're ignorant of science. But if I want to
Mine
grant
comes,
your
mine
definition,
comes directly from the dictionary. So you're just calling the dictionary dumb here.
well, yes, the dictionary isn't a scientific paper, so it uses a different definition of proof. So yes,
It's got multiple definitions of proof, but
sure.
yeah.
So which one would you like to use? Because if we're going to use the scientific definition, there is no proof. If we want to use the colloquial definition, sure, there's proof.
Okay. So you're saying that there is proof that we landed on the moon.
If you want to use the colloquial definition, sure, yeah.
Okay. And so that's directly okay. So I'm
no, that is
still
not a
trying to figure-
contradiction because when I use proof, I use it in the academic definition.
Uh-huh. So you just walked into a debate saying your team is unable to prove anything like whatsoever, and yet
By
you're
the
expecting
scientific
to play
definition,
goals?
which everyone agrees upon, which you don't need.
Okay, so you're just declaring that your team is unable to score any goals and therefore you forfeit.
No. See, again, I can have evidence, and evidence can justify a belief, and so I can have knowledge we landed on the moon. Do I need proof to have knowledge? No, I do not need proof to have knowledge. Again, this is your ignorance of the definition of the word.
There is no
Wait. I tried to explain this earlier. Your flurf definition of proof is absolute certainty. That is a flurf definition.
That's another foul.
Wait. Shh. So if we want to use your flurf definition of proof,
foul.
What? This
foul.
It's not a foul.
You've
made up this new flurf definition.
That's
and
a foul.
If you want to use this flurf definition,
the word flurf is a foul.
How is the word flurf a foul?
It's insulting. Okay,
it's just short for flat earther. Like it's just a shorter way to say flat earther flurf.
It's a derogatory language.
I don't care. You're a flurf.
Yeah. Okay, so that's derogatory language.
Definition of proof.
Okay, just to move us forward on the topic.
Yes,
Wait,
the flirt
actually, hold on,
definition
sorry
of
about
proof
that.
requires
Hold on.
absolute
I have
certainty.
that actual. I have the actual poll results. The next question that people most wanted to hear discussed was, why would the U.S. government lie about having landed on the moon?
Oh, I can just grant. Of course they would. That's just something we would obviously lie for. The question is why would the Soviet Union lie to admit the Americans landed on the moon? That's a more interesting question.
They were working with us.
They were not working with
Called
us.
the International Space Station. And by the time that came around, and there's another thing here with the Soviets.
This
okay?
was before
Imagine,
the ISS.
Just imagine for a second that they did.
We
come out and
were
say,
at the Cold War. There was a Cold War. Do you remember the Cold War? We were not working
yes,
together.
I remember the Cold War. Okay.
Okay.
So during the Cold War, just imagine for a second that they said, oh, you guys are faking it, right? And then what would the US do? They'd just say, oh, well, you guys are just being sore losers. And that's just how they would go. You guys are just being sore losers. And yeah.
But I don't understand the gibberish you just said. Like
If
would
the Soviet Union, if the Soviet Union said, they cried, oh, you guys are making up. You guys are lying.
Yeah.
You guys never went there. If they did that, then the US would just say, oh, you guys are just being sore losers. Grow up.
What is that? Is this supposed to be some kind of a counter argument that, oh no, the Russians would be so insulted if we said they were just being sore losers? They're going to be like, no, our whole regime is going to fall because the Americans said we're sore losers. Oh no. Oh no.
So it's just, that's it. They don't, rather than say we're sore losers, we're just gonna not care. We're gonna whatever. We don't even care, and that's exactly what happened.
Literally not a thing
They
that's
never
ever
cared.
happened in history.
It was never like front page news or anything like, oh, the Americans, look at them, they went and got to the moon. No, that never happened. They were never
banned the
freaking out
footage.
about it.
They banned the footage so people could not watch it because it
No
was
one cared.
real.
No one cared.
No, they did care. They specifically banned the footage because they cared so much.
And then they had decided, oh, well, let's go and work on the International Space Station years later. And
yes, after the Cold War, when the Cold War was over, yes, they do science together. Congratulations.
Was Nixon, was President Nixon?
I don't care about Nixon. Go
back.
back.
Whoa,
So,
this is Apollo
Soviet
11.
Union.
This is Apollo 11.
What?
Apollo 11 was in the Nixon era. Okay. Was that during the Cold War?
Yes.
President Nixon was all worried about those commies, and there was no kind of pact saying, okay, well, we're going to work together from now on at that time.
I have no idea what you're talking about right now. Like, what does this have to do with what we were just talking about?
You're asking why the Soviets didn't go out and say it never happened. And why there were no Soviet whistleblowers saying you guys are liars.
Right.
Yes. So this happened during the Nixon era. Okay. And during the Nixon era, there was a lot of kind of working together. They're trying to overcome kind of their differences during that time.
And the Cold War. And they were doing much more of the opposite thing.
They were doing more of the opposite thing. What's the opposite thing here?
Trying to degrade each other and show each other we're better than one another. They were trying to one-up one another. There was a space race. There was this thing, a space race where they were competing to try to get their
It takes two people to run a race, and if there's only one person running, it's not much of a race.
Right. So Soviet Union running, America running, two people. Soviets don't like the fact that America went there first. Soviets sent the dog in first. They sent Sputnik first. They were first in space. There was this competition that tried to show that one was better than the other. America won.
The Soviets never were trying to go to the moon.
All.
The Soviets were never trying to go to the moon.
That's
not a race.
Space race is not moon race. Those are two different words. Space, moon, different words. Do you understand different words? They have different numbers of letters in them.
You're saying that the Americans won the race, right?
Yes.
Because they landed on the moon.
Yes, they did something so impressive that outclassed the other one. Yes, they won the race.
They won the race, and so the Soviets were never trying to go to the moon.
The Soviets were very upset that the Americans outdid them, which is why they banned the footage in their country so other people could not watch as the Americans outclassed them.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah,
yeah, that's true. That's a fact. That's why they did it. That's literally why it's written. They did it. Yes.
And who said? Where's your evidence for that? You're just making
papers of Soviet bans footage of Apollo 11.
Is that the United States saying that? Is that more trust in NASA?
The Soviets saying that. It's the Soviets saying it.
The Soviets over there said that moon landing stuff is banned, and so they're telling you that we are banning this, and so no one's allowed to watch it, and they're just openly telling that to the public.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's kind of
it was punishable by death.
It's punishable by death. If you guys show any kind of moon landing footage, then you're dead.
Yes, that's what the Soviets did. They'd kill people who did anything that was against their policy. Yeah, that was
It sounds like you're making stuff up.
No.
That's
Just Google it. Just Google it. Did the Soviets ban footage of the Apollo missions?
Okay. So the burden of proof is on you right now. Now you're trying to shift it to me. It's up to me to go and do that. Okay. And if science never proves anything, then you're unable to meet the burden
Google
of proof
searches are not
whatsoever.
science. Again, you're using the colloquial definition. Try to get your
Oh,
flurf
sure.
head
You're
around the
telling me to
definition.
Google it and
Wait,
say
wait.
Google searches are not science.
Yes, Google searches aren't science. Like, how is this hard to understand? Colloquial definition of proof. Google search it. Like, can we prove that the Soviets blocked things from the public, just like every authoritarian government ever in the history of the world has? Yes. Saying that didn't happen just means you're a moron. Of course they did. Yes.
Okay, so
you want me to
you've
find
already
you
admitted that
evidence
you
of
are
this?
unable to meet
Sure.
the burden of proof. You are unable to meet the burden of proof.
The sky is blue. Do I need to prove that? No, because it's common knowledge. If you're so ignorant of how the Soviet Union works that you don't know this, you're a fool. Yes, I can find evidence of this for you. Give me a minute. I'm working on it.
Okay, evidence. Okay, but it's just, but not proof.
Again, your flurf ignorance of the two different definitions. I've already covered this. I've already debunked you on this. There's a colloquial definition of proof and an academic definition of proof. They're used in different contexts. The fact that the flurfs don't understand this is a flurf problem, not a me problem.
Because it's the burden of proof is on you, and because
what does that have to do with anything I just said?
You're trying to lay the burden of proof on us and saying it's our
no,
problem.
if it's common knowledge, there is no burden of proof. The burden of proof has already been met. It's common knowledge they did this. This is not something that's been hidden.
Oh, okay. So my
yes, like if I say the sky is blue, I don't need to give you scientific photos of it. It's just if you don't know this, you're just kind of dumb. That's the thing. So if you don't know the Soviets did this, you're kind of dumb. Go back to high school.
Just more fouls from you. But okay.
No, it's fact.
The last question was, have any astronauts ever recanted on their testimony that they did land on the moon?
There was the Polish astronaut who said, oh, wait, no, that was, I guess we got Buzz Aldrin. He's our number one moon lander that likes to blow the whistle the most.
So are there any astronauts
that
landed on the moon that recanted? That was the question, right?
Yeah.
And what was your answer?
Buzz Aldrin.
Buzz Aldrin. What?
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin. Yeah, I've got a ton of statements from him that, yeah.
Well, that's dumb. He does not.
You mean like statements of like, not to you personally, but that he's like interviews or things?
Lots of interviews. He's done a lot of interviews saying, yeah, we didn't go to the moon. It never happened. You didn't watch me on the moon. You watched an animation. That was him with an interview with Conan.
Buzz Aldrin interview is not evidence that it was fake. It's not proof. They use proof in this one. So it was proof. It's not proof. It was fake. They go through every one of the examples here. It is not in any way. No, it's not.
It's evidence.
No, it's not.
It's evidence.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's evidence.
Buzz Aldrin admits he did go to the moon. It's facts. None of this is in any way corroborative that it was a fake. He did not recant. It goes through this pretty clearly in every single statement.
You didn't watch me on the moon. You watched an animation. Yeah. That's why those were his words to Conan.
Yeah, which is not the correct statement. So again, if you look at the data here, it's not evidence that the moon landing was faked. No.
Okay, you're just that's a
false
subjective
verdict.
opinion.
False.
Subjective opinion.
Buzz Aldrin explaining the broadcast used animations during their coverage of the moon landing does not prove that it was faked.
Yeah, I said it was evidence.
It's not evidence that it was faked.
That's a subjective opinion.
No, it's fact. Again, we can prove there are things up there that we can reflect light off of also.
Yeah, you don't see any light coming back at you.
You don't need to directly see things.
You can see the light going there, and then you don't see any light coming back. And so all you get is a computer screen.
Again,
saying,
Flurf's not understanding indirect observation is
foul.
not evidence.
Foul.
Flurf's not understanding indirect evidence is not An objection.
Moderator, do we get
You
any
have to hold the
penalties?
red card up for me to.
I've done that, but I'm not seeing any moderation here. So
It is, as you know, it's we usually let it go. It's kind of like the Wild West here. We let a lot fly. If it is too much interrupting, that's, in other words, like there's too much speaking over each other, that's where I jump in. But otherwise, people might call you names. And you're welcome to call Tom names or even me, but
I'm above that. So I'm not going to do that. We're kind of wondering how this moderation goes, if there's any penalty or anything like that.
Well, think of it this way, because sometimes, I get people who tell me all the time how to moderate, and there's a billion different things that they don't like. But theoretically, if an opponent were calling you names, I don't know if you think that most people in the audience would find that like, wow, like I really agree. That guy's name calling is persuasive. I think I'm siding with him. Like, I don't know if it really, I don't know if they're really getting away with anything that really helps their case as much as they're just, it's a little blood sporty.
I can call you Buzz. Okay.
That's a legal name.
So you just want to demean me and
I am
persuade
Uncle
people
Coney
through bully tactics.
Let's talk about this because this is
it's
fascinating.
totally okay.
I remember.
Are you asking if I'm like morally okay with it, or are you asking? You're saying that you're okay with it?
There wasn't any television.
No, I'm just kind of
you watched animation,
looking at this and
so
kind
you
of, I guess maybe
associated
that's a
what you saw
statement to
with-
the audience.
I have very
This guy's
hazy
using
memories.
bully tactics,
Well,
name calling, and that's his efforts to try and persuade me. Or the
There's no
audience.
point in trying to persuade a flirt. That's like out of it. My point is to destroy you in a debate. I've done that.
And so you're
frequently.
trying to persuade the audience through using.
I don't think
demeaning
any of them are
language.
flirts either, for the most part.
You don't think there's any flirts? Sorry. Yeah.
None of
You
the
don't think
rational
it-
ones. No.
Okay. Well, I think, audience, if we've got any flat earthers in here, which doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the moon landing, although I can actually say that the proof that the Earth is flat is evidence and proof that the moon landing never happened. The whole vacuum chamber. Okay. Yeah. Mark Sargent was just talking about how if you put a vacuum chamber like above the second floor of your ceiling, right? You got a vacuum chamber on the second floor of your ceiling. You open the valve, and all of a sudden, that air comes up into the vacuum chamber, overcomes the power of it overcomes gravity. Then that just totally debunks space itself. And so, if there is no space, there is no moon landing.
So you want to go from moon landing to flat Earth? Like it seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot on this one by taking a really dumb claim and then.
Well,
making
you're
an
the
even
one
more
bringing
dumb
up flat
claim.
earther. Yeah, you kept saying, "Oh, flat earthers, flat earthers." Oh, there's no flat earthers who watch this. And so, if you're a flat earther, say so in the comments section. And so, flat earthers unite.
Okay. Well, I
Yeah,
was
we've got-
making a claim there. Bringing up the flat Earth as evidence is like bringing up magical pixie leprechauns who are up my butt as evidence that there is no God.
Oh,
Doesn't
yeah.
quite
So
work
you're
that
just,
way.
You're just degrading yourself right now. So.
Well, it was a parody. Yes, that was a parody argument. So the point was to show how it was self-deprecating. Yes, that was the point.
Yeah. So
The world is not
The
flat.
whole
We can prove the
vacuum-
world is not flat in many different
Uh,
ways. I don't.
Yeah.
It's a dumb argument.
If there is no space, if space is an impossibility, then so is the moon landing.
Possibility.
Yeah. If
We've
space
created
is an
vacuum
impossibility-
chambers. Clearly, it's not an impossibility. But
Okay, so-
it's literally there. We've been there. We have satellites there. We have things that we put into space, and they fall from space. We've sent rockets up.
It's the whole.
We can
It's the whole
bounce
vacuum
radio
of
waves
space
off of the
compared to
moon.
it's the whole vacuum of space compared to the atmosphere. We can't have an atmosphere if we've got a vacuum that's open right up above our head.
Yeah, we can, because that vacuum is not pulling things. Gravity is pulling things. Gravity pulls things together out of the vacuum, not the other way around.
Yeah, and so if you had a vacuum like right above your head, and you open the valve, and all of a sudden the air rushes into that vacuum, that kind of defeats the whole. It overcomes the force of gravity, right?
No.
You don't think it would overcome the force of gravity? You think
No, if I put the
you don't
vacuum
think-
chamber far enough up and the air pressure outside wasn't enough to push the air into the vacuum, then no, it wouldn't.
Because
So
you
notice
said
the air
so.
pressure as you go up goes down. Air pressure as you
Uh-huh.
go up goes down, right? So if
Yeah,
it continues
it's
to
just
go
like
down,
a peanut butter jar.
Just like a what? Peanut butter
Peanut
jar
butter
does
jar.
not have that problem. No.
Okay, you have the different layers in the peanut butter jar. You've got the
Layers?
density gradient. you have a density gradient in a peanut butter jar.
My
in a
peanut butter
contained
is the
system.
same consistency all the way through. I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't. Oh, that's because you don't have the. Got to get the Adams peanut butter that it has the oil that comes up to the top, and you have to stir. And so, yeah, whenever that happens, that shows you that you can have the density gradient in a contained system.
Okay.
Same thing happens with air.
Okay, but so if we have a gas, and if we go up, the density of the gas decreases as we go up, and it's going to continue to decrease the farther we go up until it reaches zero.
You have no. That's just you saying so.
That's how numbers work. So if
that's
it
a
starts at the
reification
bottom,
right
it's the most, and up it's little less, and up it's a little less, and up it's a little less. This is called a pattern. And if you infer from the pattern a continuation, then you can infer, guess what? It's going to approach zero. It's going to continue to go down until it gets near to zero.
That's a big assumption that you've made there.
No, it's how numbers work. Numbers, if they go in a pattern going down, they're going to get closer to zero. They approach zero. That's how numbers work.
So when you have 5, 4, 3, and all of a sudden it says blank blank, and you just say,
they're probably
okay,
going
well,
to
it
continue
must
to
go-
approach zero. Yes, probably going to keep going down.
So I'm seeing the numbers go down, but I don't see a blank blank. I'm assuming that those numbers are going to go 2, 1, 0. Okay. When you don't see that and you just say 2, 1, 0, that's called an assumption. Okay. A reification.
No. So it's like, I don't think you quite understand here. So suppose we were in a container, if we were in a container and the numbers were going down as they went up, that means there is some theoretical maximum. That means that if we had a bigger container that kept going up and up and up and up and up, the numbers would still continue to go down as we went up. It wouldn't just continue. It wouldn't spread out equally. Because we see any gradient at all, any separation, that there's more pressure at the bottom, less pressure at the top. That means that the pressure of the system alone has a maximum density of what it can support. And so if we keep going up, even if there's a container there, it will eventually reach zero. Necessarily, because there is a gradient. If we know there's a gradient, there is a necessary maximum to the gradient where it will reach zero. Even if we're in a container, it's still going to reach zero if it's a high enough container. This is not hard.
Zero. You
Yes.
realize that they claim that the Earth's atmosphere extends all the way out to the moon, right?
Yes.
So that's not zero.
Okay. Were you listening to what I said here? So
You're saying
if
it
you
reaches
go
zero, but
high enough,
So
it
past the
will
moon.
reach zero. Sure.
I'm kind of wondering exactly
Wait,
how
wait.
high
Go
enough
back
it
to
is.
what I actually said. So what I was saying, there's a gradient, right? So if there's a gradient, that means even if we're in a container, there's something pulling stuff down, right? Something is pulling things down. More
That's
pressure at the bottom means something is
yeah.
pulling things down.
Yeah, that,
And
we're not
there's
arguing
less
about
at the top, right? And there's
Mhm.
little less, little less, little less, little less. That means that if you go high enough, if you have a high enough container, it doesn't matter what the distance is, eventually you will reach zero, even in a container.
Okay.
Which means there's going to be a vacuum, a little bit of gas, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, lots of gas.
What examples do you have of anyone ever reaching zero in a container?
So vacuum
it ever
chambers
been
get
done?
close, which is all we need.
But you said, oh, now you're kind of moving the goalposts here.
No,
You said
no,
specifically
no.
zero.
Yes, we've
Because
been to space.
you said we can get zero, right?
No, that's not relevant to the point here. I don't know what you're not understanding here. So the point is that we see a gradient. There's going to be a vacuum, whatever you define a vacuum as. Vacuums are not defined as zero pressure. I don't know if you're just ignorant of that or what.
You're the one making a big deal. You're the one making the big deal about zero.
Kiddo. You made the claim. You could not have a vacuum chamber and then atmosphere. That was your claim. That was your dumb flurf claim. No vacuum. Now, a vacuum is not zero pressure, right? You understand vacuum not
You're
zero.
the one you're the one adjusting.
I never claimed a vacuum is
goalposts
zero,
here.
kiddo. That
You
was
said
never
zero can happen in a
Do
vacuum.
you
in a vacuum
understand?
chamber.
A vacuum is not zero pressure, right?
I understand that we
Right, right.
have
So
never
if we
been able
have
to
a
reach
container,
zero
if we have a
pressure in
container,
vacuum.
if we have a container, more pressure on the bottom, less pressure, less pressure, less pressure, vacuum, then we could keep going to zero. It would be further up past the vacuum. There'd be a zero pressure way up at the top somewhere. But doesn't matter to the point here, because the point, once we reach the vacuum, we've proven you wrong, because we have a vacuum, we have gas, they are right next to each other, there is no barrier between them, and the only thing you need to show that that's possible more pressure on the bottom, less vacuum, and then 0.
Okay, so vacuum is a certain level that we have to get to. So we have less, and then there's a certain level, and as soon as you hit this certain level, that's a vacuum.
Sure.
What is that level?
Okay, Google the vacuum of space. Vacuum.
See, a vacuum is anything that is less pressure than another pressure. And so, yeah, when you open the door and the wind rushes in, okay, that's due to a vacuum, a difference in pressure.
Well, then you're just debunking your own silly argument, because then everything is a vacuum.
Argument? You're right. Everything is a vacuum.
You said, oh my God. Your flurf argument was you can't have a vacuum without a container, or you can't have a vacuum and then a system of air without a container. That because you can't have those two things next to it. That was your claim. That was your dumb claim. But if you're claiming that a vacuum is any lesser amount of pressure, then there's a vacuum everywhere in the world next to something else with no container, because anywhere you go up is going to be a vacuum to the thing below it.
I agree that
so you can't have a vacuum without a container.
You can have a vacuum without a container. So when I open the door to my house and wind rushes in or out, that's due to a vacuum, and the house is a container.
Okay, so when I'm on a mountain and I'm standing at the bottom of the mountain, above me is lower pressure. Is that a vacuum?
Yeah, you can say that.
Okay, so you can have a vacuum without a container.
Because there's lower pressure. Okay.
Congratulations.
Okay. So I think we've both had to kind of adjust, and that's the great thing. Wonderful thing about debates is we've both kind of adjusted. You before had a standard of saying, pressure, and all of a sudden vacuum, and that was your thing. And now
that's true.
You've agreed with me that that's not the case.
No, that's still the case. That's still the case, because when I'm saying vacuum, I mean the vacuum of space. I'm not talking about any lower amount of pressure. I'm talking about the vacuum of space.
So you're saying you haven't moved your goalposts, and you've got a vacuum of 0 at distance.
No, I never said a vacuum is 0, broke-cakes. I never said that.
A vacuum. Okay, you did say that.
No, I said that if we have a container that goes high enough, you will eventually get to 0. Vacuums don't start at 0. Vacuum of space, what is pressure? The vacuum of space begins at 2.7 times 10 to the negative 3 bar. That's the vacuum of space.
That's pretty intense there, and that was
sure. Yeah. And we will reach that point if we go high enough, because there is a decreasing amount of pressure the higher we go up. So if we go up high enough, eventually it's going to reach that number, and we're going to be in a vacuum with no barrier between that vacuum.
That's a big reification fallacy, just a big assumption.
How is that a reification fallacy? It's literally math. What do you think a reification fallacy is?
It's when you presuppose a thing and treat it like it's a proven fact.
No, it's not a presupposition. Reification is using an abstract thing and treating it as if it's physical. It's literally nothing what you said, and nothing what I said was abstract. It's physical. So it can't be a reification fallacy, because what you said is gibberish.
Okay, you're putting assumptions in there, and you're treating these assumptions as if they are proven facts. When you
no. So I'm saying if we see a gradient of pressure, like we literally feel it, we see bottom of the mountain, more pressure, higher we go, less pressure. Do you think it's going to magically stop decreasing at some point for no reason?
That it's going to stop decreasing for no reason. It's going to stop decreasing because
if we continue to go up, is the number of the pressure going to stop going down magically?
No, it's not going to stop going
down.
Right,
it's not going to stop going down, which means eventually you're going to get to a very small number, like 2.7 times 10 to the negative 3 bar. That number,
that's an assumption.
Unless it stops, is going to be reached.
Okay, 5, 4. Okay, if we don't know the last two, okay, and 5, okay, 5, 4, 3, and then all of a sudden you don't have the rest of the pattern, and you just assume the next numbers to follow in the pattern. That's an assumption.
No. So again, you would have to assume that it stops magically. It has to stop for some reason. That's what you're assuming. You're assuming it magically stops. The pattern goes away for no reason, because magic.
I didn't say it stops for no reason. I did not say it stops for no reason.
That's what I asked you before. So do you think it's going to stop magically? If we continue to go up, is the number going to stop going down? That's the question. If we keep going up, will the number stop going down?
Do I think it will reach zero? No, I don't think it'll reach zero.
So it's going to stop.
So it's going to
The pressure decrease is going to stop at a particular number and just stay at that number forever.
It's going to stop. That's what happens. We're not seeing an updraft. We're not seeing like the whole world isn't like,
oh my God,
constantly.
Oh my God. I don't know what you don't understand about this. So if we see layers of pressure, higher pressure at the bottom, and the more we go up, there's lower pressure, lower pressure, lower pressure, lower pressure. Eventually what you're claiming is it's not lower pressure. It's the same. So more pressure, not lower pressure, not lower pressure, not lower pressure, the same.
If there is, if it was that way, then everything would be continually equalizing.
But it's not. We literally see it not doing that if we go up a mountain.
Exactly. It's not continually equalizing. That's because it's contained.
No, again, there's no container between the bottom of a mountain and the top of a mountain, but there's still a gradient.
That's because there's a lot of other things. So it's just like the peanut butter jar
something's
example.
Pulling it down. Yes.
Because something's pulling it down.
Yes,
you're saying there's
more
downdraft
pressure at
now?
the bottom than there is at the top. Something must be pulling it down.
Yes, that's a non-argument.
Right. So if something is pulling it down, that means that the higher you go, it seems like it's pulling a little less, right? Because there's less force pulling it down. So the higher you go, the less pulley downy, right?
I thought gravity was supposed to get weaker the farther and farther away you go.
So yes, the farther away you go, the less pulley downy. Less pulley downy means weaker. Yes.
Okay.
So if we go further away, there is less pressure, less pulley downy.
Less force to hold it in.
Right.
And so therefore the vacuum would have more, it would overpower.
No, the vacuum does not pull. Vacuum has no pulley power. Vacuum is a nothing. It's a nothing burger. It does nothing. It does not pull. It does not push. It does nothing. It's a nothing.
Okay.
So if you have an object in a vacuum, it's just going to stay there and do nothing. And if you have another object in a vacuum and it touches the first object, they're going to stick together because they both have gravity.
Open the doors of my house, there should be no movement of air.
No, that has literally nothing to do with anything I said, kiddo. Pay attention. Two objects in space, you put them together, they're going to stick together because they both have gravity. Space being right next to those objects isn't going to pull them apart. Space has no pulley force. There's no pulley force in space to separate the two objects.
So if you were to open a vacuum in space, the air should just stay there.
Yes, if the air is not being pushed by other forces of air, it will just stay together.
It'll
in a bubble. It's called a gas cloud.
A gas cloud.
Yes. And we do this. We do that. We actually have this in vacuum chambers. We have a vacuum chamber. You have a fishbowl. You pour some carbon dioxide into the fishbowl, and it stays together in the fishbowl.
Stays together. It doesn't try to separate out.
Not until you pour enough in. Like if you have water in a vacuum and you pour the water in, it's going to stay at the bottom of the fishbowl until you pour in enough that it overflows the fishbowl. But it will all go to the bottom and stay at the bottom.
I've seen that done with the sodium or the hexafluoride stuff, the deep voice gas. And I've seen that happen with the deep gas stuff. So with some gases, I can see that. I've also seen that done with helium. You put helium in a balloon, it has a container and it's keeping it together, and then the balloon will drop in a vacuum chamber. So I've seen that before too.
Okay.
But it requires a container. The hexafluoride stuff that doesn't require a container because it's so heavy. And
oh my God. So okay, let's take your balloon example. Let's say there's helium in a balloon. And if we pop the balloon, so helium in the balloon, we put the balloon falls. If we pop the balloon, where would the helium go?
Everywhere.
Oh my God. So if it's in a balloon and it falls, if it's outside of the balloon, it's also going to fall, right?
There's the weight of the balloon itself, and that's kind of part of what's holding it down. And
okay, forget the weight of the balloon. Will gases on their own fall?
Will gases on their own fall?
Yeah.
I just barely talked about the hexafluoride stuff and about how that falls.
Yes, it falls, right?
Yeah.
And when it falls, it goes to the bottom and it sits there, right?
Yeah.
And there's a vacuum above it, right?
That there's a vacuum, which is just being something of less pressure.
Yes, like vacuum close to the vacuum of space directly above it, air pressure of the hexafluoride at the bottom. The hexafluoride doesn't go up. There's a big vacuum here, and there's a space between them.
I've never seen the hexafluoride thing in a vacuum chamber itself, and so I'm not seeing it with nothing above it. It's just yeah.
Well, you can do it with any gas. Any gas is going to work the exact same way. It's all going to fall to the bottom of the vacuum chamber, and it won't go to the top of the vacuum chamber because it has weight, mass.
I agree that gas has mass. Yeah.
And it will fall in a vacuum chamber. It'll go down.
Possibly, depending on the strength of the vacuum chamber. And yeah, exactly. The excitement, right? We can change we can excite the particles inside, and when they start moving around, it's going to expand, right? And so
And they're still going to fall. Doesn't doesn't matter how much you expand them, they're still going to fall.
Yeah. Well, it depends on whether they're excited or not, right?
Even if they're excited, they're still going to fall.
You don't think it's going to rise up to the top? I don't know. You're just kind of talking here and saying
so
it's going to
for
fall.
it to rise up to the top, you'd have to have enough molecules to stack on top of one another to reach the top. They're going to start at the bottom. If you have a single molecule, it will always go down. It will hit the floor. That's the first place it's going to go. If you put a molecule, a very excited molecule, and you drop it, it's going to fall straight to the ground. And then if you want more molecules to stack up to the top, they're going to have to go on top of that molecule and on top and on top and on top. Because they have to layer on top of one another, because they're going to start at the bottom. They're always going to go to the bottom.
Okay. I'm picturing like popcorn in a vacuum chamber. If you were to pop popcorn in a vacuum chamber, it's going to start popping, right?
And then go down.
It's going to rise up. It will go down. But in this case, gas isn't quite the same as popcorn. And so
it's exactly the same.
You think it's going to
it's going to, even if you start at the bottom and you heat it up, the molecules are going to go up. They're going to hit the ceiling, and they're going to come down, and they're going to get stuck at the bottom.
You don't think they're going to keep bouncing and moving around?
They're going to bounce for a while, and they're going to get stuck on the bottom. They're not going to permanently bounce. They're going to lose energy and get stuck on the bottom. They're going to fall.
Well, it depends on
nothing. They will necessarily lose energy and get stuck on the bottom every single time, 100% of the time.
If it's continually getting hotter and hotter, like a pressure cooker or something like that.
If you keep bouncing them with more energy, then of course not. But if you just let them go,
we agree.
That's irrelevant. So again, the point here is if you let them go, just pour them out and watch what happens. They will fall in a vacuum chamber to the bottom, and there will be a vacuum above them, and there will be the gas below them, and the gas will not go into the vacuum. It will just sit there.
Okay. So the Earth has an atmosphere, and the sun ends up heating that atmosphere up. And so it's going to excite the particles in the atmosphere. And so they're going to act like popcorn and kind of go everywhere.
Yes.
And that should definitely cause them to go out into said vacuum of space.
It does.
And
yes.
Yeah. And so all of that's going to go everywhere out there. And that's going, and the vacuum of space is going to overpower this whole, it's going to overpower the weak force of gravity.
It does. Yes, this happens. This is a literal thing. The solar radiation does tear off parts of the atmosphere. I agree this happens, but that's irrelevant to the argument here. So we're just trying to get the flurfer to the stage one. Stage one, can you have a vacuum and then gas, and the gas does not move into the vacuum? Yes. If we're in a vacuum chamber, if we pour gas into a vacuum chamber, it's going to go to the bottom. It's going to stay at the bottom. So there's going to be some air pressure at the bottom. There's going to be no air pressure at the top, or whatever we want to define a vacuum as. And the vacuum is going to be here, and the gas is going to be here, and they're going to stay with nothing in between them. Does that make sense?
You're saying so, and I'm hearing you say it, but I'm not really convinced that it's going to be that case.
You think the air is going to magically move to the top for no reason?
No, I think there's a lot of excitement in that, unless it's completely frozen and there's
they don't
no
excite
energy
themselves. If particles are just laying on top of one another, they don't excite themselves. It's not like water heats up because it's laying on top of other water.
So there's still energy going in there, right? And I don't see what's going to cause all of those particles, the gas particles, to suddenly stop and fall.
Gravity, they have mass. Like you've seen the hexafluoride thing where they pour hexafluoride in an open container, just falls, right? Doesn't start going up for any reason? No, it just stays there. It stays
above it. There's still atmosphere above it.
Right.
And so it's going to be like the balloon. And so the balloon expands when you do that. And so I don't know if you're trying to be Simon Dan there and say, okay, I hit my head with my hand against my forehead. That means you're wrong. It doesn't quite work that way.
Well, I hit my head against my forehead because you're saying, here is the obvious thing of hexafluoride, but it's not going up because magic.
It's not because of magic. Okay, the example of the hexafluoride
is there's more pressure above it, right?
Atmosphere,
There's
it's got air above it. Air is
right.
heavier, and so that's holding it down. So you got air.
Air is heavier. What?
It's not heavier. Sorry, the hexafluoride is heavier than the air. Okay?
Right.
The hexafluoride is heavier than the air,
right.
And so you have that, and so it's like nothing above it. Okay, it's you've got one thing on top of the other. But if you take that other thing out, all of a sudden that hexafluoride is going to start to expand just like the balloon until it fills up the whole vacuum chamber.
Right. So if it continues to expand, eventually it's going to reach a maximum expansion where it can't expand anymore, right?
What is maximum expansion?
The farthest away the electrons can be from the protons and neutrons before they leave the particle.
Okay.
So like it can't expand infinitely.
Okay.
It has a maximum expansion rate.
Okay. So it can't expand infinitely, and so it's not going to be a gas anymore at that point. It's just going to
still be a gas. So
nothing?
like it can the weak electromagnetic force holds the electrons to the protons. It will still be a gas, but it has a maximum size of expansion.
So it gets to a maximum size, and then after that, it just starts to dissipate away into
no. It'll just stay at the maximum size, and it will fall like water does to the bottom of the room.
Okay.
And so there's going to be a vacuum of no pressure above it. There's going to be the particle, which is very, very big because it's expanded, and it's going to be laying with the other particles at the bottom of the room with a vacuum above it.
A vacuum of zero?
A vacuum of whatever vacuum of space number you want to use.
Okay. So it's not zero anymore.
It can be zero. I don't care.
Okay.
Even if it was zero, the particles would still fall and be at the bottom of the room.
Okay.
Any last thoughts before we go into the Q&A?
Potato.
Okay.
Excellent. We're going to jump into the Q&A. I want to say, folks, thanks so much for your questions. I'm going to read through these as fast as possible. We've got a lot of questions, but also want to say, folks, as I mentioned earlier in the debate, we have a TikTok modern day debate. Once we get to 1,000 followers on TikTok, we'll be able to live stream these debates just like this one so that everybody on TikTok can see these debates just like this one. So I want to encourage you. That link is at the top of the description box.
Just to clarify, I don't think you can live stream. I think you need to get a stream key from TikTok to do that, and you don't get one at 1,000. So to live stream on TikTok, you'd have to just hold your phone up and do it that way. It's not going to give you a stream key automatically.
I'll show you the link for the article that I found later, because there's actually a different way. But with that, we're going to jump into it. Thanks so much. Appreciate your question coming in from Anton Gomez. Says, TJump, how come the old footage of the landing is missing all the stars? Is that not suspicious?
Not necessarily. Like, it'd just be like, I can't see stars if there's other lights around me. And so if there's a bunch of other lights sending information, you wouldn't be able to see the stars. It's not too hard to understand.
Oh, should have been able to see them with Artemis then.
This one from Anton Gomez says, TJump, astronauts are seen on the sunlight on the moon. Must have been a nice boil in their own juices in those suits. Mic drop.
No.
You're saying it wasn't a nice boil?
Like, light bends, so it's not like they have to be directly exposed to the sunlight for the sunlight to actually hit them.
So the light bending in nothing is going to prevent them from boiling in their spacesuits?
So light bending can illuminate things that are not directly in vision of the sun, and so it's outside of the radiation. So because photons are not all radiation, and so they wouldn't boil even if they were being.
Space is bending the light to prevent them from overheating.
Yes, that's literally what. No, they're not directly in the sunlight. So like, you can look at the sun with your hand in front of it, and the light, you can see it without burning your eyes, because not all of the light from the sun is hitting you. So if you're not directly in the sunlight, it's not going to boil you. If there's some light hitting you, you get warmer, you won't boil. It's not like all photons of the sun will boil you if any photon hits you. No.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Malavia says, Kyle, being called ignorant of something is not an ad hominem. You need to learn your fallacies and quit the antics.
It's an insult.
This one coming in from, do appreciate it. ASEAN Talk says, Kyle, you showed a video of NASA testing equipment for going to space and the problems they had with it, which proves NASA took space seriously.
Okay.
This one coming in from Nick says, for both, why do you think the astronauts who have landed on the moon have different stories about seeing or not seeing stars?
Different levels of, because the problem's the same way. Like we can sometimes see stars and sometimes not see stars, depending on where and what time you look. So I don't see that. I don't see the problem here. I'm not sure.
Juicy. Kyle, any thoughts? You don't want to jump? Okay.
I think the stars right there. It's like, oh yeah, we saw stars. And, oh no, we didn't see stars. That's kind of when we wanted to debunk the moon landing. The number one thing we do is we look for contradictions. And so every contradiction is evidence that the moon landing never happened. So yeah.
That's like saying a murder didn't happen because there's some erroneous contradictions in the story of two eyewitnesses. It's no.
There's evidence. So
no, like literally in eyewitness testimony, they all give moderately different accounts all the time. It's just a fact of eyewitness testimony for everything. That's not evidence that the central event didn't happen. Like
it's evidence that someone is lying. They both can't be true. If someone says that this person has bullet holes in them and the other person says no, they had their throat slit, both can't. Like,
no, please just do some basic research on eyewitness testimony. Like when 10 people see the same event, they all give different accounts of the event every single time. That's not evidence they're lying. It's just evidence that that's how the brain works, not evidence of lying.
There's one person seeing a clown in the room and the other person said there's no clown in the room whatsoever.
That's not the same as saying they saw stars. That's erroneous. It's like a medium thing. The color of the car doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, this is kind of like a really big, obvious thing.
No, it's
the astronauts on the moon, all they have to do is look up and, oh, look, stars. And one person,
yes, sometimes you would see them, sometimes you wouldn't.
I didn't see any stars.
This reminds me.
Sometimes you wouldn't, obviously.
This reminds me of a juicy, very similar type of argument in a different context regarding the eyewitness testimony and whether or not the core of their scenario or their testimony is true. This is interesting. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Tom, you have to.
I think so. Like there's a number of studies done on eyewitness testimonies of like seeing a car crash and what color it was and what things were going around it. And they all got it wrong, but they got the core thing correct about the car crash. So like the central facts can be correct, even if all of the medial facts are not correct. So yes,
I'm talking that you're right. That's true. There's good research like that, but there's a specific debate topic I'm thinking of. Nobody else is thinking of it.
The Jesus resurrection.
Yeah. This one coming in from Ozzy and Talk says, Kyle, please apologize for lying about Buzz Aldrin.
I didn't lie. Okay, you're going to have to deal with it.
Yeah, Buzz Aldrin never recanted that he was on the moon. That's never a thing he said.
I've got lots of footage of it.
He never said that. He did say the thing about the animations, but that's because during the 1960s there was no camera footage of them on the moon, and so those were animations, but that's not evidence it was fake.
Yeah, I'm glad that we agree that they faked it. So
no, well, they faked the animations that were broadcast at that time period. That's true.
This one coming in from, do appreciate your question. Nick says, for TJump, what do you make of the Apollo 17 lunar module liftoff video? What do you see when you watch that video?
Magic pixie dust.
I have no idea.
It's the okay, lunar liftoff. Okay, you got the module, it's going up, and all of a sudden you see all these like weird, colorful sparks, magic pixie dust going everywhere as they rise up, and then the camera just pans up there like perfectly. Like, you haven't seen that?
No. Well,
okay,
maybe I have. I don't know. I don't see the problem there.
That's pretty classic. Funny thing happened on the way to the moon. American Moon. Those are some great documentaries on the matter.
Juicy. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Fact-based living says, we are indirectly observing you in this stream, Kyle. Do you not exist in a jar of water? All molecules are the same density. Why is there a gradient?
Okay, that was a lot. So why is there a gradient in a jar of water?
They said, let's see. They said there are two questions. So they said, one, we are indirectly observing you in this stream, Kyle. Do you not exist, therefore?
Okay, so that's multiple questions here. And so I definitely do exist, even
They
though
say in
you
a
are
jar.
indirectly.
They say in a jar of water, all molecules.
Okay,
are the
I don't
same
exist
density.
in a jar of water.
That was a separate question. He's asking, so he's going back to the density question, like if there's a jar of water, each of the molecules has the same expansion rate. We were talking about how molecules can expand, but there's a different gradient, even though they're all expanded at the same amount.
Yeah, that's because the ones in the bottom have to bear the weight of the ones on top.
Yes, just like how gas would in a vacuum chamber.
This one coming in from, just to be sure, okay, we got that one in a jar full. Oh, we got that one. Okay. And then CyberHex says, Kyle, your conspiracy claims that roll off your tongue so easily may seem harmless to you, but you delegitimize the hard work like my grandfather who worked for NASA on the Apollo M's. Shame on you, sir. How do you like them apples, Kyle?
I say abolish NASA. We got to get rid of it. It's unconstitutional. It's a whole other different argument, but yeah, do away with them.
How is NASA unconstitutional?
How is it? Okay, you want to get into that debate? So it has nothing to do with the role of government whatsoever. The entire organization itself is outside of the Constitution. The government is not allowed to spend money however they want to. And so when they do things that has no authority, no constitutional authority, it is unconstitutional.
No,
this one coming in
doesn't make any sense.
Well,
Government spend money on things that aren't in the Constitution.
That in another debate then.
Government spend money on things that aren't in the Constitution all the time. That's not
wrong.
That's not against the Constitution.
Yeah, the government, too much.
Nominal says, TJump, I am a fellow tube earther. Earth has no walls, but no top. Or it has walls, but no top.
Tube earther, that is correct. So like we could have a tube earth and there was an open thing at the top and you'd still have an atmosphere gradient, and so it would still work.
You got it. Best in Show says, don't worry, Kyle. You have to take it all in jest. You know, you just kind of let it roll off your back. They say, James, I want to give this super chat to Kyle for tuition to go back to 4th grade. You can never let them know it gets to you. Never let them see you sweat, Kyle. You're doing all right. All right, this one from Vinny says, Kyle, Buzz would probably hit you. He's attacked people for denying.
Bring it.
They said he's attacked people for denying the moon landing before. TJump, when that chair breaks, will you hold a funeral for it?
It's logically impossible for it to break. It predates the origin of the universe. It's unbreakable. It's made of unobtainium.
The clamshell chair. Is that the one that you've always used for like? Have you had the same one since you started? Coming on Modern Day Debate 4 years ago.
I think so. This is my second one of these chairs. My first one was brown and it was leather. This one is suede. The leather one gets too cold in winter, so I use this one. Got this one. So it's probably the same one.
But Kyle, as I said, Buzz Aldrin may hit you the next time he sees you. What if he punches you in the face? What are your thoughts?
He can shoot me in the face and I'll take it as a badge of honor. Take up your cross and follow me. That's, you stand for truth and come what may.
Thank you for that. Shane the Pain says, showing aloha to TJump from Hawaii. Love all your debates.
Thank you. I actually recently posted a picture of Minnesota life, and there's like a foot of snow everywhere except in like the sidewalks and the streets. So jealous of the Hawaii life. If you happen to know a millionaire who can buy me a house down there, please hook me up.
You guys are tough living up there in Minnesota. This one, Fact-Based Living, says Kevlar is flexible. Kevlar with epoxy is in helmets and bulletproof vests. The epoxy is only there to make it rigid.
Yeah, I've had a Kevlar helmet before, and those are pretty rigid
because of the epoxy.
This one, Wage Robot, says, ask Kyle Adams what he thinks of space agencies other than NASA. Have other countries' space agencies gone to the moon?
They are in it together, and if you haven't seen the Chinese footage of the moon and just how fake it is, it's worth seeing.
Juicy. This one from Nominal says, TJump, are you saying we are living in a tube? We got that one pretty much.
Yes.
Professor
we are
Phil
living in a
Bell
tube.
says, Kyle, will you debate me on whether or not space exists?
Whether or not space exists. I'd take him. I'm all game for debates. I love them. So they're a lot of fun. But space exists is kind of a really broad topic because he'll have to define the word space there, because I am in a space right now. And so, yeah, I'm not going to argue saying, I'm not in space right now. Kind of
Vacuum of
silly.
space. He means the vacuum of space. The vacuum of space.
Vacuum of space is a whole nother argument. And yeah, I could take that argument.
Juicy to say the least. And want to say this next one coming in from, let's see, Dr. Phil's forehead. I don't know if it's the same Dr. Phil. I think they mean Dr. Phil, like Dr. Phil. This one, the TV show, says, can modern day debate please come to Denver? We are thinking about doing quarterly conferences. That's a possibility. Pat in the chat says, Kyle, the USSR and the US were in a space race to the moon. If the US faked the moon landing, then why didn't the rival superpowers say anything? I mean, they said nothing.
I think he answered this before. He said, because, but America would just say that, well, they're just unhappy that they're losing, and that would be
they're being sore losers.
Yeah, America's going to call Russia sore losers, and the Russians are just so terrified of that happening. They're just not going to lie.
Let's just ignore it instead and not make a big deal about it. And it's just like, whatever, they can tell whatever lies they want. And we're not even going to bother even listening to their lies. Until change of resume or change of regime. The regime, that's the word. Thank you. Change of that, and then all of a sudden, no, now we're going to go work together with you, and we want to go to space with you. So, so much for the whole Cold War thing, right?
This one from Nick says, for Kyle, what do you think the moon is? Would a werewolf prove anything about the moon for you?
I don't know what the moon is. That's just as simple as it gets.
Juicy. What's this werewolf business? Would a werewolf prove anything about the moon for you? Like if a werewolf told you it exists? I don't understand.
Well, werewolves come out during the full moon. It's like it's a werewolf joke.
I see. Thank you. This if a werewolf told you. Okay. This one coming in from, do appreciate it. Actually, that's it. I think it for the actual questions that I have listed here. So folks, let me just do one last scan. Otherwise, I want to remind you. Oh, okay. Nick says I had a moon question for Kyle. Yep, just got that one in. Thanks for your patience on that, Nick. I was a little bit slow on that. Looking for any other in the chat. We have Kyle for president. Thanks for that. Okay. Iron Charioteer.
Defend the Constitution.
Someone else also said Kyle is a 3D chat bot, but this Iron Charioteer says, ask Kyle, when is your fast food chain of restaurants grand opening? McAdams.
It's the outfit. He's talking about the outfit. It looks like a
McDonald's. That one
red and yellow.
So. I put that one together on my own, but I do have to say you have quite the getup. This one,
thank you.
Let's see. I think that is it. But I want to remind you, folks, our guests are linked in the description. If you're listening via YouTube or the podcast, all of our debates are put up on the Modern Day Debate podcast, which you can find on Apple Podcast. You can find it on Spotify. Every podcast app out there has Modern Day Debate. So, folks, if you love listening to these, if you are tired of that intro music, and you're like, I don't want that, the podcast has the intro music taken out. It also has the that's pretty the biggest difference. It has no ads though. That's another big difference. So if you're like, YouTube ads drive me crazy, the podcast doesn't have any ads. So I want to encourage you to check it out if you haven't. And if you're listening via podcast, as we do have a lot of people that actually do use it, you can find Tom's and Kyle's link in the description box below. So I want to say thank you to them. Let me do one last question or check for questions. This one from Andy Babb says, please explain what the moon is specifically.
I don't know what the moon is. It's a light in the sky. So exactly what it's made out of, I don't know.
Gotcha. And that looks like it's it. But I want to say thank you so much. We appreciate it, folks. Thanks for watching. I will be back in just a moment for a post-credit scene. So I want to say a huge thank you to our guests, though. They make this channel possible. They are what make Modern Day Debate fun. So we appreciate both Tom and Kyle. Their links are down below. And I'll be back in just a moment. So stick around for that post-credit scene. Thanks one last time, Tom and Kyle.
Okay,
Subscribe to TJump. Peace out.
Abolish NASA.
Keep it real, homies.